Hi, it's Katrina. From a toxic island used for dangerous experiments to one that just appeared out of nowhere, here are 10 of the creepiest forbidden islands around the world. Number 10. Surtsey Island. On November 14, 1963, a crew sailing on a trawler near the shores of Iceland saw a mysterious puff of smoke coming out of the ocean. Minutes later, Surtsey Island was born. At first, the ship captain thought it was a boat on fire. He apparently maneuvered his vessel to investigate, only to find an island literally being born right before his eyes. There were explosive eruptions coming from below the sea surface, gradually giving rise to what would end up being an island around 2,000 feet long and over 147 feet above sea level. But what's really amazing is that the eruption went on for 3.5 years and didn't end until June of 1967. During that time, you would definitely not have wanted to visit this island, as you would have choked on the ash and probably died. Today, most of the island is already gone. In 2002, the island was reduced to only 0.54 square miles, according to the Surtsey Research Society. At its current rate of erosion, the island will be completely gone by 2100. And even though this might seem like a cool place to visit, it's not recommended because it's literally in the middle of nowhere. And besides, it's forbidden anyway. This place is a nature reserve dedicated to the study of how plants, insects, and other types of life establish themselves on a new piece of land. Number 9. North Brother Island. North Brother Island is one of the most terrifying forbidden islands in the world. It's located in New York between Rikers and Manhattan Island. Many people in the city don't even know that this place exists, and that might be for a good reason. North Brother Island from the 1880s and onward was used as a quarantine location for people who were infected with deadly diseases, including the extremely infamous Typhoid Mary. Mary was an asymptomatic carrier of typhoid accused of infecting over 50 people. It was ultimately abandoned in 1963 after a failed attempt at being a drug rehabilitation center. As of now, it is illegal to visit the island without permission from the city, not only because it's a hazardous ruin most likely still filled with diseases, but also because it's a bird sanctuary. According to Business Insider, producers for the Science Channel managed to get a special permit from the city to visit the island in 2017, and the rough shape of the forgotten ruins were documented as being the spookiest place in New York. Even if you could visit North Brother Island, you probably wouldn't want to. Number 8. Niihau Island. Niihau Island is the most mysterious Hawaiian island of them all. It's actually known as the Forbidden Island, and it's been privately owned since 1864 by the same family, after being bought by a woman named Elizabeth Sinclair from King Kamehameha V of the Kingdom of Hawaii for $10,000. According to Bruce Robinson, who currently owns the island alongside his brother, it has largely remained unchanged since the 1860s. The island is actually in pristine condition and considered a critical habitat for many different endangered species. It's also one of the most desired destinations for tourism in the world. This is because nobody is allowed on it. You literally cannot go, so don't even think about it. One of the reasons for this was that back during the polio epidemic of 1952, the island was completely shut down and nobody was allowed to visit unless they had a doctor's certificate. And even then, they had a 2-week quarantine. As a result, the Forbidden Island never had a single case of polio. See, they were already prepared for 2020. Don't worry, not even rock stars get a special treatment here. For example, ABC News recently reported that Mick Jagger tried to get permission to land some of his helicopters on the island and was firmly denied. The royalty of the world, the billionaires among us, and even Hollywood's favorites all get the same treatment. Nobody may enter. Number 7. Gas Mask Island. Gas Mask Island in Japan is one of the most toxic places in the world. It's properly known as Miyakejima, and it's a small island just south of Tokyo that sits on top of an active volcanic chain that has erupted no less than 6 times in the last 100 years. But the people who live here don't only face the constant threat of a volcanic eruption, they also have to deal with the highest concentrations of sulfur and other poisonous gases in the world, which regularly leak upwards through the ground. Even as recently as 2000, a mass evacuation happened when insanely high levels of toxic gas appeared after one of the volcanoes erupted. For 8 years, all flights into the area were forbidden. The residents of the island weren't allowed to return home until 2005, and even then, they were ordered to carry a gas mask with them every second of every day. This really makes you wonder why anyone would even want to live here at all. The real danger about visiting this island, even though it's not forbidden anymore, is that you could wake up in the middle of the night to a wailing siren warning you to put on your gas mask. In fact, gas masks are even available upon your arrival on the island, and you can purchase them in almost every tourist shop. Do you still want to go? Let me know in the comments below. And really quick, wanted to give a big shout out to Jessie Lanou and Hazel for their nice comments and for being a part of the Origins Explained family. If you want to join, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. Number 6. Greenard Island. There is an island about half a mile from the Scottish coast that was once so contaminated by bioweapons that nobody was allowed anywhere near it for fear that they could accidentally spread anthrax all over the globe. This island is known as Greenard Island, and it's only about 1.2 miles in length. It's covered with trees, and it was allegedly used as a hideout for thieves in the 16th century. So far as historical records show, only 6 people have ever been recorded residing on the island. But since the 1920s, not a single soul has lived there. But here's where the germ warfare comes in. It was in 1942 that military forces tried to create a germ bomb to unleash on the Germans, hoping to decimate their food supply with the anthrax bacteria, thereby completely shutting down the Nazi army. The strain chosen was Volum 14578, and it was thought to be more fatal than other strains of anthrax, which meant it would lead to more and more infections. Meteorologist Sir Oliver Graham Sutton went to the island with a team of around 50 men and 80 sheep to test out the weaponized anthrax. It was known casually as Operation Vegetarian. According to Ripley's Believe It or Not, the anthrax actually proved too deadly, killing all the sheep and contaminating everything on the island and making it completely uninhabitable. The plan was canceled, and the weaponized anthrax, as far as we know, was put to rest. Number 5. Ramree Island. Ramree Island was the site of the worst crocodile attack in history. It was the end of World War II, and hundreds of trapped Japanese soldiers were trying to make it on foot across Ramree Island in the Bay of Bengal. But crossing the island proved far more dangerous than they could have anticipated. The issue here is that Ramree Island is basically a swamp, and it is riddled with massive crocodiles. Crocodiles are the largest reptiles on the planet, reaching over 20 feet long and weighing over 2,000 pounds. About 1,000 Japanese soldiers found themselves separated from the rest of their army and outgunned by British Royal Marines. They took their chances and fled into the mangrove swamps, but the saltwater crocodiles saw them coming. It was reported at the time that only about 480 out of the 1,000 Japanese troops survived the hungry crocs. Survivors told stories of dozens of crocodiles attacking the soldiers. All they could hear was the gunfire and screams. Of course, the death toll estimates do vary quite a bit, but there's no denying the fact that this was the biggest crocodile attack in history, confirmed by the Guinness Book of World Records. Number 4. North Sentinel Island. North Sentinel Island is home to some of the most reclusive people on the planet. Called the Sentinelese, according to Forbes magazine, they defend their home fiercely and have only been contacted a handful of times by the outside world throughout the last 200 years, with every incident ending badly, pierced by arrows. Missionaries and explorers, shipwrecked crew, and escaped convicts have all confronted the Sentinelese, and it often ended in violence. Now the Sentinelese are protected by the government, who has made it illegal to go near them for their own safety and for the safety of outsiders. It's been estimated that there are only between 80 and 150 people on North Sentinel Island, though to be fair, it could be as many as 500 or as few as 10. Nobody really knows. Anthropological studies from afar have tried to see how the Sentinelese are able to survive in the tough island conditions. Fishermen and poachers often break the law and invade their space, which could bring disease as well as violence. They try to fish close to the shore or get animals that they can sell. The Sentinelese keep an eye out and are ready to protect their island to the death. As for their heritage, they are related to other indigenous groups in the area, specifically people who come from the Andaman Islands. However, because they have been isolated for so long, they have their own language that nobody else can understand, and they aren't really up for teaching it. There was one single successful visit to their village in 1967 when it was revealed that they lived in huts, they used canoes to travel around, and they lived by fishing and harvesting crabs. The really interesting fact is that even though the people who live here are called the Sentinelese, nobody actually knows what they prefer to be called themselves, since nobody can actually ask them. Number 3. Snake Island. Snake Island off the coast of Brazil is home to one of the deadliest and most feared snakes in the world. The entire island is infested with anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 golden lancehead vipers. These snakes are so dangerous that they can kill a person in under an hour with a single bite. Oh, and the venom can and will melt your skin right off. Anyone who wanders onto the shores of this island is immediately at risk of being bitten, which is exactly why not just anybody is allowed on it. Local legends tell the story of the last lighthouse keeper and his family who died when the snake slithered into his home through the window and bit them all to death. While some people believe the snakes were put there by pirates to protect their treasure, they actually evolved there all on their own over thousands of years. Over time, they became isolated on the island and had to adapt to find prey. But why are they so venomous? Smithsonian Magazine reports that when the snakes ran out of prey on the ground, they took to the skies, climbing up trees and preying on migratory birds. The venom had to be really strong to be able to bring down a bird quickly, and they couldn't afford to wait to bite it again. Because it's so dangerous, the Brazilian government controls all visits and issues special permits to biologists and researchers. A doctor must be present on all visits just in case something happens. Number 2. Battleship Island. Battleship Island in Japan is one of the darkest and creepiest forbidden islands anywhere on Earth. It's currently devoid of human life, with buildings that are crumbling to dust, giving it that post-apocalyptic vibe. But this place was once the most densely populated area on Earth at its peak, with 5,000 people living on just 16 acres of cement-covered island. Mitsubishi Group purchased the island in the mid-19th century as a coal mining area. The bustling community became a coal-producing powerhouse, and miners and their families flocked there to work deep in the coal tunnels. Known now as Battleship Island because of its shape, it was also called the Island Without Green, since there were no trees or flowers or any vegetation to be seen. The island lasted for almost 100 years as an enclosed ecosystem with housing complexes, shops, and even schools. But once the coal reserves began to run out and petroleum reared its ugly head, the mines were shut down and the people left forever in 1974. Life there was harsh, but there is an even darker chapter in the history of Battleship Island. During World War II, Korean and Chinese prisoners of war were transported to this island and used in a slave labor workforce. They had to work long hours in 100-degree weather deep in the dark ground while wearing only their underwear. Some estimates have placed the death toll of foreign workers at over 1,000 between the 1930s and the surrender of Japan at the end of the war. Everyone on the island, employees and prisoners of war, lived a similar life, with terrible conditions, a lack of hygiene, and malnourishment. The prisoners were easily replaced, and nobody cared if they dropped dead from exhaustion. The walls of this place have seen many sad stories and dark secrets. Over time, the coal dried up, and by 1975, it was completely deserted. As of 2009, the island is less forbidden than it once was, and you can now visit, but you have to go through an official tour and must remain on the walkway at all times because buildings are collapsing by the minute. Number 1. Poveglia Island. Near the popular tourist destination of Venice in Italy, there is a forbidden island with a twisted, dark, and violent past. It's known as Poveglia Island or Plague Island, and many locals call it like hell, but in Italy. It was built by the Venetian government and used from between 1793 and 1814 as a plague quarantine station. It was just one of many such island stations found in the Venetian lagoon. It has been said that over 160,000 infected people lived out their final hours on the island, with as much as 50% of the island's soil consisting of decomposed human remains. There have even been mass graves recently found on other nearby islands containing thousands of corpses of plague victims. As for Poveglia, there has yet to be any digging, and so there have yet to be any bodies found. And as if that wasn't gruesome enough, Napoleon even used the island for a more sinister purpose, storing heaps of weapons on the island while he was in power. Then in 1922, after all this plague and Napoleon nonsense was over, a mental hospital was opened there. There is even a local legend that states one of the doctors at the hospital tortured and murdered dozens of his victims and then died when he fell from the top of the bell tower. The hospital shut its doors in 1968, but the ruins can still be seen today, though of course you are not allowed to visit. That said, if you really want to explore an island that housed a plague factory and an insane asylum, there are other islands in the lagoon that are open for visitors. Thanks for watching! Which one of these islands would you dare to visit? Let me know in the comments below, and if you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Origins Explained family. See you soon! Bye!